If you're stuck in the suck and you don't do anything different, you're going to be in the suck forever.
Nothing changes if nothing changes. I was so unproductive for majority of the day. When I was 22 was really when this first started to be a problem because my wife was pregnant. And so I went to a psychiatrist and she's like, you don't have ADHD. You have delusions of grandeur.
That's complete BS. One of the greatest gifts you can have in your life is to have delusions of grandeur.
It completely changed my life.
I've had fear my whole life, deep fear of failure. And then my kids were born. I was just like, dude, I totally have to perform here. Everything I tried didn't work. Then I did a few things that were not normal and it worked. And all of a sudden I started making a lot of money and being successful. I know that if I lift myself up, I'm going to lift up a whole community of people. Most people live lives of quiet desperation, and it just doesn't have to be that way.
Let's talk about the mindset fundamentals, or like the mindset foundations that one should build or have before deciding to become an entrepreneur.
One of the most important ones is people think like problems are barriers instead of opportunities. And I think that I always joke and I say you should fall in love with problem solving because that's your job every single day. That's your job. Yeah. And if you can get that mindset in your head of, okay, what's the next problem? Not, oh, once I solve these problems, it's going to be easy street. That never happens because you're just going to create new problems happen. You know, you have to hire people or you have to get a building and then you have to buy inventory and you have to do this and the bank and the lawyers and the this and the that. So if you just understand from the beginning that, oh, this is it, I'm in the problem solving business. I think that's a really crucial something to print out, put it on your whiteboard and to look at it all the time and remind yourself because you're going to get so frustrated. And I just think the biggest risk is, people quit because they think they follow people like you, listen to me and I talk about, my story and I had success, but it's massively huge grind over and over and over. And I love talking about it and I love being enthusiastic and getting other people involved, but I want to be realistic with them as well. So falling in love and problem solving, I think is just huge.
What if you're listening to this and you think, I don't like problem solving, but I want to like it. Are there any exercises?
Yeah, I think you have to start small, right? This is why I tell people, like, if you want to become a reseller, sell stuff in your house. We talked about this on a previous episode that you should just learn and find, yes, you will limit the problems, right? You are going to solve and you're saying, oh, I've solved this problem. Now I know how to solve it. So next time it will be easier or it will be less of a surprise. I don't know if easier is the right word, but I think you just have to start, at a low level, solve these little problems as you go along. If you get so frustrated and you can't get your resale permit or you don't want to learn the accounting software, you don't know how to deal with eBay and you think you're getting eBay's, holding you back or they're not supporting you. There's techniques that you have to do. And I talk about them all the time, but if you're not willing to do them, there's that saying that we can only make suggestions, right? But people have to make decisions. They have to decide.
How can people decide, if they get to that point where they're frustrated and they can't get the resale permit or whatever, where's the line between this is not for you, this is just not for you. And that's okay. It doesn't need to be for everyone. And keep pressing through. This could be for you. How can people decide that? Where's the line between just natural difficulty and I'm trying to make an apple and orange here?
I always felt I had no choice. It was always money driven, right? I had to make a living. It's definitely easier when everything you own could fit in a pickup truck, right? When you're young and you don't have it's something easier. But I think that the problems can guide you because maybe this isn't for you. Maybe, I'm going to start this kind of business and do some, small experiments. And you learn, this, I don't like this. This is a nightmare. In my experience, it led me to something different. I constantly still going through that where it's just like this business, this content business, some parts of it I love and other parts I don't like at all. It stresses me out. And even coaching other people, I feel a deep sense of responsibility and that I have to really be careful with because I get so into it that it stresses me out. I can make suggestions. And if you follow this path, this is what worked for me. But the outcome is up to the person.
Have you ever seen that meme where it's I don't remember what it was, but it's kind of men, when they go running, they tell themselves, if I don't reach that next telephone pole, my whole family's going to die. Right. It's just and men do that. Like we have this weird thing in our brain where to motivate ourselves or to lift heavy or to run far or run fast, we lie to ourselves and make up these fake scenarios. And it's kind of funny. It's a meme, but it's kind of how we operate. And I was thinking back to when I weighed 260 pounds all of my 20s.
I couldn't believe that. I saw that picture. I was like, that can't be real. Yeah.
And I went on strict keto. So as a member of my church, I've never tasted alcohol. I've never smoked anything or done anything, right? Never even tasted it. And so part of the way I was able to not eat carbs for 5 months straight was I would lie to myself. And like if we'd go out to dinner and then dessert would be passed around, I would tell myself, eating that cookie is not an option. Like it's not just like if they were to pass around alcohol, I wouldn't even consider it. It wouldn't even be a temptation because I've never done it and I'm not about to start. And so I would kind of convince myself in my brain that the cookie was alcohol or a dangerous drug or something. And like it removes the choice from me, right?
Yeah.
I don't even have to choose. It's like, that's not even a choice. That's not an option. I'm not going to do that. Whereas the times since being off keto and I've kind of had some willpower and like I knew I shouldn't eat that cookie or the third cookie. And I do anyway. It's because I'm not employing that tactic. I'm not telling myself it's not an option. It is an option. And I'm kind of weighing my, the cost benefit analysis. And then I always end up doing it. And I think there's several lessons in there. One is like, there's a lot of power to, and this isn't a good way to say it, to lying to ourselves, right? To convincing ourselves. So like tricking our brain into something that's not actually there because our brains are powerful. And then two, there's a lot of power to.
You're right. It's that language that you use, right? That is very, very true. And when I started.
So here's how this works. I make you free videos. I actually know what I'm talking about. I have no greasy sales pitch at the end. And if you implement what I talk about, you'll make a lot more money and have a better life. And all I ask for in return is that you hit the subscribe button and maybe even the notification bell just like that. Thank you.
My whole thing is I have this deep, deep fear of failure, like deep in my body that like I feel like I break out in hives if I have to. And I have failed. Don't get me wrong. But over and over. In this greater sense of being a failure to my family, my wife, and I've written a lot about this, that finding someone that motivates you, like that you're performing. I'm still getting up early in the morning to impress my wife. When my kids were born, I was just like, dude, I totally have to perform here. I wanted to be the great dad. I wanted people to see me as connected with my kids. I wanted to be, a coach. I wanted to be the scout leader. And, so I always think of that failure as like, I do anything I can. I have to avoid that because my story is really important. The story that I tell myself in my head and the stories that I tell the people around me that I care about. I do care what people think. I know they tell you shouldn't, but that's ridiculous. And I think that's just a lie in society. We all care what people think. We care more of some people than others, right?
Yeah.
But, once you connect with people and do things like I could not show up and be late for this podcast because I would chop my arm off, versus doing that because it's like, oh, this guy, I got this connection and I want to make a good impression and that kind of thing. That is what I did. And it kept me going because I learned early on to do things backwards and to not and I was just forced to because everything I tried didn't work. And then I did a few things that were kind of not normal and it worked. And all of a sudden I started making a lot of money and being successful. And I was like, well, this is weird. So what if I just kept doing this? So I think of myself as an old man and I think about what stories do I want to tell when I'm sitting around the campfire? I use that metaphor every day in my life. What am I going to tell about this story? What am I going to say about this? Even my wife and I just went on this awesome vacation and both of us are just like, well, even if it sucks, we'll have some great stories to tell. Even if it's a disaster. And it was almost a disaster. Our plane got shipped. We had to get shifted to another airline. All this. I had to ride in the middle seat for 5 hours. It was brutal.
No.
All from business class all the way back to nothing. Stuffed in the seat. But you think about it. This is going to be a good story. We're going to talk about it. So back to your original thing of how did you know? Sometimes you do have to stop, but that. To me, I just like, okay, well, that part didn't work, but look at all these things I figured out. Now, how do I lean into that? Because there's so many millions of different things you can do to be independent. That's what I was looking for, independence, and to be in control of it myself.
I'm drawing so many connections here. Like, the person who outwardly says, I don't care what people think about me, they probably care more than the average person. And that's why they're saying that, to project that, right?
Yep.
And B, I was thinking how you, and I'm the exact same here, wanting to do things just for the story, or kind of hedging against a failure by saying, at least it'll be a good story. I do the exact same thing. That probably is directly tied into us caring about what people think. We want to tell cool
I'm already
stories.
Thinking about what I'm going to say.
Yeah. Right. We want people to be impressed by our stories. Yes. I failed, but this is a cool story though, isn't it? Yes. You like the story though, don't you?
Because there's a third act. There's a third act that always you come back. Oh, I lost $1 million, but let me share with you how I turned it around and I made 10 million. You know what I mean? Those are great stories, but it's trying to be self-aware and recognizing that that's a story I'm really telling in my head. I am delusional. There's no doubt about it. I conjure things from nothing. It is magic, but if you keep telling yourself that and you couple it, you have to bolt it on to action, right?
Yeah.
And like when I first came across your content, I was like, well, this guy's just all about ideas. Those are easy. That's easy. I could sit and spout 100 ideas. But however, then as I got more into it and, you sucked me in, I realized that, there's action here. Look at this research. Look at this scraping. Look at all these tools that he's sharing to get these things done. That's why you're so successful, because you have bolted on this delusional belief that you can create something from nothing. Then you've bolted it together with, here's the action items, the reality, and the tools that you need to make that delusion really happen. And that's huge. It's huge.
Thank you. The ideas are like the bait, that's what people get. It's like the fly trap.
Yeah, the auctions are the bait too, right? I believe in the whistle, the workhorse, and the whale concept, right? You need a whistle for your business, what gets attention. And then you get people in, and the average sales, the average stuff is your workhorse. It's your stuff that makes your bread and butter, money every day. And then the whale is, here's your huge offer. And you're going to have less people attracted to each of those levels, right? So it's the same thing. I post about these auctions all the time, and it's fun, and people think, oh, how do I get involved in this? And then you start to bolt on some of the realities. Like, well, these are the tools you need, and here's the community you should, join, and all that kind of stuff. So it works.
I want to get back to the whistle, workhorse, and whale, but I got to get these other thoughts out of my head first.
Go ahead.
Just about like the ideas are being bait. My short form videos get over 100 million views a month. And I guarantee you probably over 90, 95 million of those people think I'm a total idiot. Because they're never going deeper. They see one and then they swipe. Oh, that's so dumb. Oh, that's so dumb. And that really is at odds with my desire for people to like me, and for me caring what people think. Like, I don't know how those two mesh, because they're exact opposites.
One of your superpowers is you're not afraid of being embarrassed. I wish I was better at it. If you can not be afraid of being embarrassed, man, the world is your oyster. Yeah. Because it allows you to fail and look bad or stupid, or not worry about or sticking the camera in front of your face, or, when you're running down the street with your rucksack and you're sweating like crazy and talking, I'm just like, dude, this is ridiculous. But it works because you don't care. Well, maybe you care, but you don't have that fear of embarrassment. Like, I'm not going to be at my best form or whatever. You're just like, hey, I just need to get the content out and I'm going to do this.
It's interesting because I think I just had a realization as you said that. I agree. It's probably some of that, not being afraid of being embarrassed. But at the same time, like anytime I'm at a public function, like I don't want people to know that I'm there. I don't want them to look at me or focus on me, right? So what I think it is even more than that is I don't read the comments most of the time.
That's good.
And I don't have the bandwidth. Like, it'd be physically impossible to read all the comments. So if I only put out like one video a day and they never really went viral and there were only 10 comments a day and 8 were negative, I might quit. But because of the fact that it's willful, strategic ignorance. Ignorance can be bliss.
Yes.
And I choose to not know, because when I do go read the comments, I'll respond and be like, well, that's not true because, and then I'm like, what are you doing, Chris? Who cares? Because most of the top liked comments on most of my short form videos, now long form is the exact opposite. The comments are very positive, but on the shorts, they're negative, and I'm an idiot and I don't know what I'm talking about.
You don't. That's correct.
I can't read them. I have to strategically ignore them and then Only then can I press forward.
Yeah, I'm very thin-skinned, like with my
Yeah.
stuff too. If you come out and start, I'm just like, oh, I just block you. I just don't have time for it. I don't.
Yep.
I just admit it. I'm thin-skinned. I don't want to be. I'm trying to help people. I'm doing it to have fun for myself. I'm very selfish, but in the sense that in my head, my selfishness helps other people. Right. I have been hugely motivated to be successful, and
I'm going to clip that one line out. My selfishness helps other people. No context. I'll just post that.
That's correct. That's good. That's some like crazy narcissist comment. Yeah. But I know that if I lift myself up, I'm going to lift up a whole community of people, my family, my friends. I know it. I've seen it in action.
It's like the greater good.
Yeah, it is good. And it works. I saw it from a very young age, and I was fortunate to have some success and to take some risks. But then, you think you're bulletproof and you think everything you're going to do works. And then, so you need to get kicked in the teeth once in a while to readjust your brain and to remind yourself that you don't have it all figured out. And it also helps you pivot into new things, because nothing lasts forever. Every good thing is going to end. And also every bad thing usually ends too, right? That's a good thing. So we're sometimes think that good things will last forever, right? And that bad things only last a little while, but it can flip. And if you get caught in a bad rut, a rut is just a grave with both ends kicked out. It's just bad. You've got to get out of this. You just have to change something. It could be anything. You should walk to work instead of drive. You should change your office. You should have your sales meetings on the roof of your building. You should, you have to change your physicality and anything. You could change the way you dress. You just have to physically, for me, changing as much of the things as I can when things are bad helps me power through and get to the other side.
Well, this quote it's not my quote. I heard it months ago, but it just popped in my head this morning, right before this call. I was talking to my wife about a struggle we were having with one of our kids. And I was like, well, what do we do about it? What do we change? And then we're like, I don't know this. And then I said, well, nothing changes if nothing changes. I wish I could claim that quote. It's not mine. I don't know where it came from, but it's so beautiful. Nothing changes if nothing changes. And it's like, duh. Yes. But then you think a little deeply on it, and it's like, I just have to do something differently or nothing will change.
It won't. And if you expect it, isn't that the definition of insanity, right? Is not making any change and thinking it's not going to be the same way. It's crucial. And you get stuck in these bad situations, especially in business, but even just in life in general. And for me, that changing the physicality, like I always tell people, and this always freaks them out. One of the things that we regularly do, my wife and I, is we change the side of the bed that we sleep on.
Really? Interesting.
Absolutely. Because
where did you learn that from?
I don't know if I read it somewhere, and I can remember telling her the first time, and she was like, "What? Why would we want to do that?" I was like, "Because it's change. It's different. It gets you used to doing things in a different manner." Because we all are creatures of habit, and we all fall into those, myself included, where you get, "Oh, I love this repetition, and it feels really good," but then you get smashed in the side of the head, and you have a hard time changing. So changing the side of the bed you sleep on, the side of the couch you sit on, changing it up we don't do it every week, but we do it every few months.
Yeah.
And when I tell people that and I suggest that, they tell me I'm crazy.
No, I love that.
They give me every reason in the book. Well, I have to sleep near the door. What? Why? Oh, it's protection. Where do you live?
Yeah. What's going on, dude? When was the last time you got attacked?
Yeah, come on. It's crazy. And so
video is cool, but you know what's better? Long form audio via podcast and my newsletter, tkopod.com. Go there to subscribe for free to my newsletter. It's 1 email a week, very tactical. And then go to my audio podcast, 3 episodes a week, stuff like this. You're going to love it. All free, no sleazy sales pitch, tkopod.com.
If you just change things like that, it changes it. Like I love to hunt, and in the wintertime, I sleep in a beat up old trailer, a few days of the week. And I can't wait to do it. And I can't wait to stop doing it. At the end, I'm like, oh God, it's going to be great. And I love it. But then I'm ready to do something else. So that change, if you can find ways to bring it into your life a little more, it goes back to your question about problem solving. It helps you adapt to your worldview. Should be that this will not last. This will not stay the same. And maybe it's because I was in the consumer electronics business forever, right? That nothing stays the same and the prices are always going down. So you're constantly like, oh, what am I going to sell? And I can't sell that anymore because Apple doesn't make it. And I get this and that and that. So you're forced to just keep adapting to new ways to generate revenue because, I had all these people depending on me, all these employees and landlords and lawyers and bankers, all depending on me.
I think people learn so much faster when they do it the hard way. You could have been in an easier industry, but you wouldn't have learned as much or as fast. You kind of put your learning on supercharge mode.
Yeah. And that's why I always tell people in the beginning, we're going to learn how to do this manually. I'm going to teach you how to do it manually. Yes, we can automate it and we will. But if you skip that and go right to this fully automated part, I don't think you value it as much. When I was selling, handbags on Poshmark, you have to follow like thousands of people a day. It's a weird system. Now, yes, you can definitely automate it. And once I did, I was like, whew, it's great. But I learned I could follow 1,000 people in like 10 minutes. So I could just sit, chilling out in the evening. It's like, oh, my thumb is incredibly fast. That's probably my secret to success. So you just do it. But then I understood the power of that on that platform, the power of those follows. And then I learned, because I was doing it manually, I learned that there were better people to follow than others. There are certain people that you should follow. You need to follow this type of person because they're going to be attracted to your account when they see you followed them. And that person's a buyer, and then this. And so there's a whole system I learned because I sat on, the couch in the evening and pressed that follow button and looked and see who am I following and when they started buying from me, I'd be like, well, what kind of buyer is that? And what attracted to them? And then I created this whole system around it because I did it manually.
That's making me think of a friend that I have, a couple friends that are very, very quick to automate things, very quick. And they'll have an idea and then they'll delegate it, they'll outsource it, or they'll automate it, and then they'll move on to the next thing. And what I've learned is they don't really have all that many skills. They're never getting in the weeds. They're like, I don't know if they think they're above that or they don't have time for that, but it's just like the assistant can do this. We can automate that. We can do that. And then when you talk to them about like the actual fundamentals of the business, they don't know. They've never really been there.
That's interesting. Yeah, I feel like and I talk about keeping things simple. Like when somebody explains their business to me, if it's like really complex and other stuff, it's like, wow, man, that's impressive. I mean, it's impressive, but how much of that dollar hits your pocket? I'm always thinking, and I always feel like these guys are way smarter than I am, but doing things and keeping it simple and like learning to press buttons yourself and learning why it works, it's done really well for me.
I finally thought back to the second example of not eating carbs. Because it's like, have you ever heard the phrase, that's how my ADD brain works.
Yeah.
You've heard the phrase, how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yep.
Yeah, yep. I think that's a load of crap. Okay, that's my hot take for today. It's a load of crap. Like I'm very, like my car stays very clean. It stays clean. But then other parts of my life are very messy. There are some things in my businesses where I am like a micromanager and I have attention to detail. And it's like, no, you got to change this. You got to change that. And then there are other things where I'm not. It's like, whatever. Like, I think people can be trapped by feeling like they are who they are in a certain way and they have to be that same person in every other way. Like for 5 months of my life, I didn't touch a carb and I was insanely self-disciplined. And then for 37 years of my life, I'm usually eating a lot of carbs.
Yeah.
I usually have no willpower or self-control. Like, any thoughts on that? Any experiences with that in your life?
I would agree. I think I like certain things really clean and other ones like my garage is always a disaster because I've got a million projects going on. And I distrust people that have super clean garages with no tools out and everything's like just sheetrock. I'm like, what do you do? What do you think? But I think you're right. And I also think I don't know how much related this comment is to that, but I think it's kind of fun if you talk about this contrarian stuff you do. I think I've been encouraged by talking about my business and people going, what? How does that work? I always tell people, they think your life is a certain way because their life is that way. And, you go to work and you come home and you chill out and you watch TV and then you go back to work and you come home and you chill out and then you you borrow a bunch of money and you can live this life and you have this and you have a boat and a jet ski and this and that. But I think when you can just kind of drop little hints about how your life is very different, I really love doing that. And I love dropping comments. As I've gotten better at it as I've gotten older, but like, I don't really like drinking water, right? I don't like water. I don't think it tastes good. All kinds of stuff, coffee, maybe have a soda once in a while, iced tea, but everything has a flavor. So I made this comment. I was at something, a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I haven't had a glass of water in like 2 years. And the whole table just quiet. This. And even though,
who invited this guy?
Yeah, it's kind of BS, but it's directionally true, right? I drink water with other ways, and juice and tea and all this kind of stuff. But once you have some confidence, if you have a little bit of success, you don't need much, a little bit of success. Like if you can make that extra $1,000 a month or whatever, you can start talking about it. Like, yeah, I made an extra $1,000. And people, how'd you do that? Oh, I just walked around my house and I sold this and I did that, or I did that, whatever. So I guess it is that the way you live, where your life is in one section is the way it is in ever. I think that's BS. I don't think it's true.
I think the best way to get confidence is to fake that you have confidence to start, and then you fake it till you make it. And then eventually the best way to build confidence is actually have something worth being confident about.
Yes.
To do something yourself with your hands, find some level of success, at least that you find successful. That's the most important part. And that will build confidence more than any book ever could.
Oh, of course. And I think you have to know you're going to be afraid. I've had fear my whole life. I still have it because I'm like, I got to try this new thing and I got to do this. And, yes, I don't need to work anymore, but I'm afraid if I stop, I'll die. You know what I mean? And I'll just sit here and rot. And I don't want to do that. When I was young, I was afraid that how can I support my family? So I used that as a motivation. It didn't hold me back. I think like young people today, unfortunately, have been, I'll make a terrible generalization because I'm an old guy now, but we have a whole generation that has been taught that your fears and anxieties should be kind of siloed or they make you special and you should really pay attention to them and don't push yourself too far because it can kind of hold, and they hold you back. I had those same fears and anxieties. I put them behind me to push me forward, right? Because I knew that I just couldn't stay here. If you're stuck in the suck, right? And you don't do anything different, you're going to be in the suck forever. So move yourself forward to get out of that situation and try different things.
Change something.
Yeah. Just like we said, change something, change the side of the bed.
Yeah.
You really go out of your comfort level. If I had to say one thing, it's embracing that change has been a big deal for me. Hard for people around you though. Hard on my wife. Hard.
Yeah, for sure.
It can definitely be tough for them.
I was just thinking of an analogy. I love mowing the lawn. I have this riding mower and my lawn stays wet a lot. We've gotten a lot of rain lately and I get stuck. I get this thing stuck all the time and it is so maddening. And the tires, they don't have much tread. And you said stuck in the, what'd you say? Stuck in the suck. Yeah.
Stuck in the suck. Yep.
And so I get stuck and, you've got these two handles and the first thing I do is just like brute force. I go forward. No. It's back. Ooh, back. Then you're going to rock. You're going to get some momentum. Rock back, rock forward, nothing. Okay. Then you start turning the left. All right. Let's get a little more traction on the tires by hard left. Okay. No. Hard right. Okay. No. And then it's like, then you get out and you go find a 2x4 and you put it under the tire. And then you go have your son, hey, push me while I push the hand. Like there's like 17 things you need to try before you get that thing out. And that's business. Like that's just life. That is
absolutely
right?
Business. Yes.
Whereas some people, they turn the thing off and they go inside and they're like, I'm done. You said this about fatherhood, being scared as a father. Like there are fathers that get scared or anxious and they go out for milk and they never come back. That happens a lot.
Or they go to the bar at the end of the day, every day before they go home because they can't face it. Right. I don't understand how you could do that. And I always wanted my kids to just look up to me and think I knew what I'm doing. I share my success now with them. We have our family chat and I'm always like, check this out. I conjured this out of words. I love and trying to set that example of like, hey, you look how we're so fortunate. We were talking about it before we were recording, I was on this trip and, we're just so fortunate that we won the genetic roll of the dice based on where we are and all the support system we have and the opportunities in front of us. It's like you could do anything. You have all these great skills and tools, and it's mind blowing to me that more people don't jump in and try to figure out a way to change things. But there's that frame that, most people live lives of quiet desperation, right? And it just doesn't have to be that way. You can define success any way you want. I always, very clear on that, because the way I define it's certainly different than the way you define it. I couldn't do what you do. I couldn't be on the, hey, I couldn't do it, so we're all so different. And that's beautiful that we can all do our own thing. And once you solve for your basic needs, man, then you should start to push and try new things, and don't get complacent. Don't watch Netflix, keep your laptop and look at stuff and learn and keep challenging yourself. Fill yourself up with new things, because then that opportunity just starts. It is magic. Things do start happening to you. Opportunity does start coming to you as you push and you get into this opportunity zone, if you will, because you're just kind of out there. But if you're on the sidelines, you're just not going to see it.
Well, I hear people all the time talking about their imposter syndrome. Like, I just struggle with this because of my imposter syndrome. And I'm going to push back on that whole notion. Like, I think an imposter syndrome is just insecurity, which is just human nature, which is just normal.
Totally
and I think if you have imposter syndrome, then it means you're trying to do cool things and you're in the right place, right? Like, lean into that imposter syndrome. Keep faking it. Like, same with Delusions of Grandeur. I've mentioned this before. I don't know if I told you or not, but when I was 22, I didn't get diagnosed with ADHD until 3 years ago when I was 35. And it completely changed my life. Complete 180.
The diagnosis changed your life?
The diagnosis and the medication thereafter. It, just like a light switch, night and day. Everything I accomplished in my 20s was despite the fact that I had ADHD. Like, I could have done so much more. I was so unproductive for majority of the day. I would have these spurts, and then just doing nothing for hours at a time. And when I was 22 was really when this first started to be a problem, because my wife was pregnant and I'm about to be a dad. I was 23 when he was born, but I could not focus in class. And how does anyone focus in class? Like, we had these computers, I had a smartphone. Why am I going to listen to mitochondria when I could be looking at stocks or looking at eBay? Like, I have all these distractions. Yeah. And so I went to a psychiatrist and I went through this full panel of testing. At the end of it, she wrote this big, 6-page report. Her name was Dr. West. And she said, you don't have ADHD. And I learned later that if you're ever on campus at a state school, the psychiatrists are very, very hesitant to diagnose anyone with ADHD because they think the kids are going to go out and sell their Adderall to all the frat guys.
Sure.
It's it's a controlled substance. Literally. It's a stimulant. And so I was looked at through this microscope and she's like, you don't have ADHD. And it was 6 pages. There's a lot in it, but all I remember was you have delusions of grandeur. And this frustrates the people in your life because you just have these plans that they don't think you'll ever be able to fulfill. And I don't know how she got that.
Complete BS.
I don't know who she talked to.
One of the greatest gifts you can have in your life is to have delusions of grandeur.
I know. And
because
I just remember reading that.
Pulls you forward. Right?
Yeah. And just thinking okay,
that's
all
crazy.
Right, chip on shoulder activated.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's you know what? You only know that they were delusions if 80 years later on your deathbed, you never did anything. Then they were delusions, but you can't say they're delusions looking forward. They could be plans.
Yes,
and so
of course.
I want to get a shirt made that just says delusions of grandeur and then cross out the delusions and just write plans over it.
Yeah. That's right.
Just plans. How do you know what I'm going to accomplish or not?
That's crazy. Yeah. And I think that when I was younger, I used to talk a lot about, what I'm going to do, how this is going to work. And it does, it didn't take me very long to stop that, because people do look at you like, oh, this guy's a blowhard. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And he, So I have quickly learned to talk more about what I've done instead of what I'm going to do. Yeah. And then I learned that not everybody wanted to hear about my success. In fact, most people, and if you cared about me, yes, did my family, that kind of stuff, and friends, yes, they always, but even then. So then I started sharing some of my failures, and man, everybody wanted to hear about that. and so it brought me to a different level. You have to be able to, I don't know if you've ever seen that movie Zelig. It's a Woody Allen movie, but you should watch it, because he takes you have to adapt to different groups. When you're like, let's say you walk into a room and it's a banker or a bunch of bankers and you're at a conference table talking. Well, you have to speak a certain way and adjust certainly. But if you walk into the warehouse and everybody's hanging out talking about sports, you have to adjust yourself different. Well, in Zelig, he does that, but he changes his physicality. He gets fat when he's around all these other people and he does stuff. It's a really interesting movie. I think I got pretty good at that. I can't stand corporate like suits and people. I'm really intimidated by that because that's not my world. And even though I think I'm a lot more successful than those people and my life is amazing and I've had lots of flexibility and independence, I still am intimidated because I didn't live that life. I didn't go that route. But you have to be able to walk in a suit and talk the talk and that kind of thing. So I think that you should have these delusions that you're going to do all these things and try it, but you can't talk about it out loud too much until you've, started to, I did this and I did that. And I wanted to be in the, heavy equipment business. I drove a 45-ton crane down from, the Bay Area down to Mexico. And I did this, and you just kind of drop these little things and people go, what? And you let them ask you. That's a skill, right? If you can just have a conversation and have little comments, and if they're interested, they will ask. It's like tennis. And I can always tell, like, if I'm going to connect with someone new, because I'm a question guy. I love asking questions. What do you do? How does that work? How do you sell that? Where do you go? Who do you talk to? Do you ship it out of the country? I'm just curious.
Do you ever get self-conscious that asking all those questions, they're going to think that you're trying to copy their business? Because I do all the time. I ask the same questions, like, what are your margins? And like, I know that they know what type of person I am. Like, sometimes I'll tell them up front, like, listen, I'm not going to post about this. I want to know. It's awesome.
Yeah, I want to know. I'm curious. Like at the sock store, I want to go up and say, how do you make your money? Clearly it's, we actually do this and we sell, $40,000 worth of socks a month and da-da-da-da-da. And sometimes people do that. But what I learned is there are people that then will ask questions back to you. Mm-hmm. And those are people that I tend to connect better with. Mm-hmm. And there's people that never ask you a single question. And my wife and I always comment about it, like, well, we had an interesting evening and went out with a new couple or whatever. And not a lot of but a lot of, hey, because that's how you get the conversation going. What do you do? And how's this? And what are your kids? But it has to go back and forth. It's like I said, it's like tennis.
I think sometimes we don't get questions because people just can't wrap their mind around what we do. It's so foreign to them.
Yeah.
And I fall into the same trap. If I'm talking to like an anesthesiologist, like I'll ask him questions to a point and then it's like, I don't know what else to ask you. I have no clue about your life. That is so different from mine. I'm more likely to ask him about like how he laid his sod in the backyard to look so nice,
that's cool too. I'm interested in that too. How did you do this thing in your car? I'm just curious. And I think that if you follow your curiosity, like when I try to teach people how to become a reseller, and they're like, well, I don't know what to sell. It's like, well, what are your interests? Are you a sports person? Do you like camping? Are you a cook? Do you like to cook? Great. Let's go sell Blackstone grills and let's find out where to buy those. And you love building things. Let's go find this. And you're a tool person. Okay, let's build this or let's go find that. So that's just such a great place to start, is to be curious about how things work and what I've learned how to do this and how do I create something with it. And following that curiosity is, I was interested in Apple computers. I mean, that was just it, because it made me look way smarter than I really was. And I was in the landscaping business. I owned a landscape construction company. And when I say owned, I just started it when I was a kid, and in college just got a little bit more official. And then the Mac allowed me to charge a lot more because it made me look like I knew what I was doing. And I didn't know what I was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of figuring it out. But then I was like, well, this is really cool. Could I make money doing this with this thing? And then you just investigate it. And that's what I encourage people to do. It's not a side hustle. I don't like that term at all. I think that's too chaotic and not, I use the term revenue stream, and create a revenue stream with something you're curious, whether it's $500, whether it's $100 a month, $500 a month, or $50,000 a month, and you got to be careful because you can ruin things you love by monetizing them. The system you're trying to develop is using the curiosity to get you involved and then getting into other things too. Like, oh, I've learned this system. I could do this. I've learned how to use Facebook Marketplace. I learned how to use eBay. I learned how to sell this. What else could I sell? Or what else could I talk about? Maybe it's content. Maybe it isn't selling,
Would you say you have a pretty strong bias for action? Like if you have a question about something, you're curious about something. I mean, that's maybe a dumb question.
No, absolutely.
How long does it take you? Like, let's say you've got some time at the computer, you're doing your normal stuff, you're clearing your inbox or whatever. And then I'm just going to completely make this up. You say, NVIDIA just released this new model, this new AI model. I bet that all of these old GPUs are becoming outdated. There's probably going to be a lot hitting the market. I should probably see what they're priced today versus what they were priced before that announcement. I'm just making this up, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Will you look that up right then? Or is it like, does it go on a to-do list or?
I wish I'm not very good with to-do lists.
Same.
I use this, I call it a to-did list. I like to make it at the end of the day so I could write down what I got done. Otherwise, because I often go in the house at night, for dinner, and I'm like, man, I didn't get anything done. But then I'll start talking to my wife and I was like, oh yeah, wait, I did. So I created this concept that helps me relax a little bit. And it's called the to-did list. So at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, I got this and I did that. And I did that. And I did that. Now there's AI that helps you, the dongles you wear.
The pendant. Yeah. Right,
the pendant, the limitless. Is it limitless?
Yep.
Yeah. So you can do it on if you're in a computer-based business, the limitless will make your to-did list for you. And you're like, oh, wow, I did get a lot done. I can go relax for a couple hours. I do jump into things quickly. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it kills my productivity. I have a hard time getting into deep work, because I'm hopping around everywhere. But like I just read an article that because our air traffic control system's kind of screwed up in the country. And I read, it's like, oh, I read an article says they're buying components from eBay because they have to buy these old systems. And I immediately like, well, what are they buying? And how do I find that buyer? So I'm searching to find the FAA's eBay account so I can go see what they're buying so I can go source it and sell it. Because that's where the money's at, in selling obscure things and not competing with other people. I don't want to sell, I can't sell iPhones anymore because there's no margin in it, but I want to sell 5.5-inch floppy disks for an FAA machine that they need to keep going. There's good money in that.
So if you have a question like that, you try to answer it immediately. Is that accurate?
Yeah. I have this thing called a quartet. It's a whiteboard that goes in between your computer, your monitor, and your keyboard. And it looks like a keyboard, right? It's like this kind of thing. And I write down on it as I'll come up and go, oh, I got to look at it. And I'll just kind of write it down to set a reminder for me if I don't have time to do it. But yeah, I jump into it. And I try to I use the Apple Notes app. That's like my second brain. Yeah.
Same.
I mean, I live in it. And the Apple reminders, if I'm thinking of something, I'll just hit it and say, remind me at 3 p.m. to look this up, blah, blah, blah. That kind of thing. That helps me a lot.
Did you see my tweet about the pickleball court that I'm opening?
Oh, yeah. You did the club. Facebook. Yeah. Yeah.
I have this metal shop and I'm going to put a pickleball court in there and make it like a private club, $100 a month. At the point, like right now, there's a septic guy back there looking at my septic system to see that I could add a bathroom as I speak. And so I'm going through these steps, but I'm breaking my own rule. Like I'm going to have to pay the septic guy $39 for coming out and giving a quote. And what is my rule? Like before I spend any money, I got to validate that there's demand for this thing. And so I did post to Facebook Marketplace and that's what I tweeted about. And I got a couple messages, but it's only been a day. And so last night I was like, okay, I need to put Facebook ads up to see if there's any demand for this. So I had to get in my car and drive back to the shop because I wanted to take a video with the shop in the background.
Yeah.
So I took a few videos and then I was like, these really need to be edited, but my editor's asleep right now. And then I was like, screw that. Like that's just friction. And so I come back to my computer, I edit it myself and I create a Facebook ad campaign. It took about 10 minutes. And by the time I went to bed, I had 3 leads from people that lived within a 6-mile radius because I looked at the cities in my area and 7 was kind of too far, 5 was too narrow. So 6-mile radius. So these are people that are interested in pickleball that live 6 miles from this facility at a max. And I had 2 or 3 interested leads and I paid $1.78 for each of them.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Like $6, 30 minutes of time. And now if I extrapolate that out, it's like, wow, like I could stop right now and feel really confident Because if my cost per lead goes up to $10, $20 and my close rate is 5%, like in no world does this not financially make sense to launch. Now I'm going to keep them going. I want to learn more. Like how many times do you want to play a week? Do you live right next door? Do you live 10 minutes away? Maybe you don't actually live in the area and Facebook glitched out.
I love that. And I think that I always say, you need to buy with math and sell with emotion, right? And that's exactly what that is.
It's a good soundbite.
Yeah, you're using math to make your decisions, but then you're going to do your video and you're going to show this facility, and somebody's going to make an emotional decision of like, oh, wow, I want my own private pickleball club because I go to my own private and they want to play, but they also want to talk about it. They also want to say, well, I go to the TKO private pickleball, place. That's a good story. So, you should always, buy with math, sell with emotion. If you do that.
Oh, I like that.
But people flip it, right? They buy I'm in the auction business. They look at this. Oh, I gotta have it. I gotta have it. And they I always tell them, look, all these auctions are all automated now, right? You just put your high bid in them and walk away. Don't sit there and go, oh no, I'm just another 100. No, because that's emotion. If your spreadsheet tells you can pay $3,500 for that pallet of stuff, you put your $3,500 in and leave, or maybe you do 3,505 or some kind of odd number and walk away because you let the software bid for you. That way it's all math. It's no emotion, but it's hard to teach people to do that. And I see it over and over again. Oh, I bought this deal. I paid a little too much. It's like, well, how? How did you pay too much? Because you didn't follow the rule. Now in the auction business, you'll lose maybe 80%, right? But that 20% you do win, that's your money.
That's so good. Yeah, I'm having a big unlock here in the last 10 minutes of talking to you because I'm trying to write a book called Bias for Action. And it's kind of embarrassing because I have a bunch of it written, but I haven't yet figured out how to teach people how to develop a bias for action. That's so meta, right? Like my bias for action caused me to start writing the book, and I don't even know how to implant that bias for action in others. I'm just telling stories at this point. Yeah, right?
That's what you really should write is a biography.
Right.
That's more valuable than a business book. It's you. This is my life. My life is a bias to action. That's your life.
I think that people are going to be like, okay, cool story, bro. How can I do that? I want to do that.
Yeah, but you do teach that. You'd be like, oh, okay. When just like you just talked about the pickleball thing, you just tell that, hey, look, this is what I did. I wanted to prove this. I did this. I did that. That's it. That's the super value right there.
We want a framework though. Maybe I'm just being too MBA. Like when I went to TCU for my MBA, it was all about frameworks, and we feel good about a framework. We can check a box.
But you're giving them a playbook. That's more powerful than a framework. The playbook is, here it is. This is what we want to achieve. We want to get the ball in that end zone, right? So the playbook is we do this and we go here. We do that, we go there. This guy, this is his specialty. You do this. You find the Facebook person, you've got the thing like, hey, I'll send you this thing, all your Facebook ads. Well, that should be I guarantee you have enough content for your book right now. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. You just, maybe need somebody to help you put it all together. A good editor. And I think everybody should write a book. Once you get a best-selling book on Amazon, it's great because then you can say you're a best-selling author. It was great for me. I wrote a best-selling book because I tried to start a software company and failed miserably. And I had all this content. I was like, what do I do with this? I was like, well, I've always wanted to write a book. I'm going to figure it out. I hired a coach. She taught me some great tips. I got some great software. I got behind the velvet rope of the self-publishing world. And I realized how these really famous publishers were, I don't want to say scamming it, but they hacked it. They knew how to become a best-selling author for everything. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is how it works. And, it's amazing.
What a good story about turning a failure into a successful revenue stream, right?
Dude, whenever I get that, I just got it. I got back from vacation and I came in. I had 2 emails from Amazon saying, hey, here's your royalty payments will be transferred in the next couple of days. Like, oh, there's $800 for one and I don't know, $500 for one. It's like owning a rental house.
Yeah.
It is truly passive income. It's conjuring wealth out of words. And I love it. I love it. And everybody can do it because we all have different lived experiences.
James Camp, I had him on my podcast and he held up his keyboard like this. And he said, this is your key to wealth. If you hit these keys in the right order in the right
That's
way
great.
for
Yeah.
a long enough period of time,
A long
you
enough
will
period of
unlock
time.
billions of dollars, trillions
Yes.
of dollars.
Yes.
You're just sitting here at a keyboard in the comfort of your home with air conditioning, hit the right keys in the right way for a long enough time, and you win.
I've been writing on X for I guess about a year and a half. And I think I'm a quarter of the way through my journey here because it's unlocking all these different things that I had no idea. And I'm doing things now. And it's, I've created a business out of it, which I love. It's great. And that's a great rubric. I can't help but measure things that way. But I do feel I'm in parts of it, like I said before, when we first started talking, parts of it I love. Other parts I'm just like, oh, this is rough, so you just keep adjusting. And I still don't know where it will lead, but I have met amazing people like you and all these other guys that keep me motivated every single day. And that the value of the human connections with that keyboard, it's priceless, man. Absolutely priceless. So
I wonder if the key to building that bias for action muscle is to, as soon as you have a question, any question, you're curious about something, if it can be done in an hour or less, you do it within the hour. Like you do it right then, right? Like right then. And even if it comes at the expense of anything else, and it seems silly, like you're at a dinner party and you have this idea, like even if you have to go sit out in the car and pull out your phone, you're building the muscle, right?
Yeah.
You're training,
Yes.
You're rewiring your brain, like we like to talk about. And then it can become more natural and more organic, and you'll want to do that. The question I have for you is, if that is a true principle that we just uncovered here, how do you build the curiosity muscle? Because that comes first. How can you become curious?
The one thing I would add to your thesis here is that you need some dopamine feedback, right?
Okay.
You need a
reward.
Yeah. What is the reward? And that is crucial for I'm a dopamine hunter. That I do it all day long. I'm looking for feedback. Oh, this many views, this many clicks, got a comment, Chris liked it, all that stuff right now, right? So what reward can you put in there? If you want to become a reseller, like what I teach, then that's why I say you should start selling stuff in your house, right? Because it's just found money. So if all of a sudden I put it on eBay, I did what you said, I added a credibility statement, I did this, I did this, and
the dopamine is the cash you get.
Boom, I made $100. I believe in the power of small numbers, right? $100, $500, $1,000. I believe $1,000 there's 1,000 in all of us. There's $1,000 brain switch. And when you can figure out how to get there, that motivates you. That unlocks that curiosity that you're talking about. Some people don't have it, and they never will, and that's fine. And we need massive respect for people that grind every single day for their whole lives. UPS drivers, the guys that want to be police, or the women that want to be firefighters, or whoever. That's amazing. But if you want an uncommon life that you've created from nothing, and you want to feel that, I often feel like a magician that, you created over and over and over something out of nothing. And that is it's super rewarding for me. And so everybody has their own reward system and all this stuff, but that curiosity coupled with that dopamine hit, that reward, I think it's powerful.
Yeah. I like the dopamine angle. I'm just thinking, if you had it like a question about I wonder if let's say I'm just going to completely manufacture a scenario. You're at a dinner party. It's 9 p.m. on a Friday night, a lot of people talking, and you talk to a guy who has a brother that opens a pickleball club in Spokane, Washington. And He was sold out on day one. And you're like, hey, do you mind? I'll be right back. Right?
Yeah.
You run out to the car, you pull out pickleball club. Let's say you live in Fresno, California. California. None. Okay, pickleball club, Modesto, California. None. Pickleball club, what? Wow. Okay. So in that case, they did the right thing. They were curious. They answered the question. What's the dopamine there? Just learning the answer?
Yeah. I think the dopamine there is the possibility. Oh, wow, this could be. And excuse me, I have gone down that road a million times and be like, hey, we're going to do this. Like I follow this guy, Snook's Bottom Barbecue.
Oh yeah, same.
Right.
Yep.
I love
that guy.
And he started behind a car wash,
gas station.
Right? And posted his numbers, shared it. I was like, wow, you can make that much money on a brisket?
I know.
I can cook a hell of a brisket.
I'm shopping for smokers over here. Like
exactly.
I'm not even joking.
I know, right? I'm thinking like I live in this very kind of upwardly, I don't know what you want to call it, this very expensive area in California, Northern California. It's ridiculous here. I don't know anybody that's running the smoker behind in some parking lot. And I think there'd be people like, we have a couple of barbecue joints that do it, and they sell out. You know, people line up at 8 a.m. and they sell out by 11 or noon. I'm thinking, man, how much would it take me to invest to go? Because I think that'd be kind of cool sitting around. So that to me is a reward in itself. Most of them don't go, not most of them, but many of them, those ideas don't go anywhere. But I love talking about it. The crucial part of this cycle thing we're talking about and being connected with other entrepreneurs and all this stuff, I can talk about that with a guy like you. And like with my content cowboy group, I can throw those ideas out and everybody like, yeah, that's awesome. But I know that there's certain people that I can't talk about, be like, what? Or if I bring up another idea to my wife about, hey, I'm just going to invest like 50 grand and get all this stuff. She'd be like, what? You know, this kind of thing. So even though she's super supportive, you still have to be cognizant of people think you're nuts, you know, in many ways. That's a feature.
Well, speaking very tactically, if you want to be curious about things, go to @Shannon Jean on Twitter and go to me on Twitter @MHP_guy and follow all the people that we follow, like Snook's Bottom Barbecue, because we follow strategic people in business, and your feed will be filled with things that generate questions and make you want to have a bias for action. So.
Yeah, that's right. It's great. And I love talking about this stuff. I know we didn't have a ton of like numbers and this is actionable.
That's okay.
This was a different kind of episode than we normally do, but I still think it's equally important.
@Shannon Jean on Twitter. Anywhere else we can find you?
No, that's a great place to start. And message me. You got questions or whatever? Come talk. I have a mastermind. We're gonna do a little more stuff with this mastermind stuff. We're close to 500.
$5 a month.
$5 $5 mastermind. Yeah, we're close to 500 members. Hopefully this week we'll hit that number, and it's amazing. I love watching people do incredible stuff. It's a huge dopamine hit for me, and that's what I'm here for.
That is awesome. Okay, well, thank you, Shannon.
I appreciate it, man.